We're joined via video link by Thembisa Fakude, Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, to weigh in on the recent attacks at Rafah border crossing from Gaza into Egypt and some of the implications. Thembisa, good afternoon. Again, thank you for your time. You're on the SABC at this hour.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get your observations on the updates. We've heard Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doubling down on the Rafah offensive. There have been reports of Israeli troops using hostage bodies as shields. All this in the face of mounting international criticism. What are you observing?
Well, I'm observing that is at the moment isolated because his biggest backer, the United States, have also said that to be foolhardy for Israeli defense force to go into Rafah crossing, given the congestion in Rafah, and to expect over 1.2 to 1.8 million people to move from Rafah after they've been moved from northern part of Gaza again. It does not give assurances that the civilians are not going to be hurt and killed in this latest incursion by the Israeli Defense Force. But we also had the Israelis saying that this is probably the last offensive targeting the two or so battalions of Hamas in Rafah. And that's why they're going there. And Benjamin Netanyahu, during his interview with the ABC, has said that those who are calling on him to stop this latest mission are basically saying that they will want to allow Hamas to be victorious. And for him, victory is this particular offensive that is currently planned in Rafah.
Thembisa, thank you for that context. Egypt expressing willingness on Friday to work with the US to provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, saying that Cairo has already done so, of course, through its Rafah crossing. This was in collaboration with the global community at large. And I wonder if you could speak to the impact that the attack is having on the number of displaced people, the lives lost, but also just Saudi Arabia also coming out to say that they've warned Israel of very serious repercussions if the ground invasion of the Rafah proceeds. And there will be no Israel ties without the recognition of the Palestinian state. So obviously concerns about it now spilling over, it becoming a regional conflict situation.
Yeah, well, it's all lip service. I mean, Egypt controls Rafah crossing. It's the only country that's got a border with Gaza. So if they really are serious about stopping Israel and giving passage and also allowing aid to go into Gaza, they would have done so. So Egypt is part and parcel of this problem. They've stopped and blockaded the Rafah crossing at a very, very critical time during this war and in the past. So I really take whatever it is that Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his government says with a pinch of salt. When it comes to Saudi Arabia is something similar. They were willing to normalize relations with Israel way before 7 October when this attack on Gaza started. Saudi Arabia is one of those countries that endorsed the Abraham Accord, which was sponsored by Donald Trump. And they basically kept themselves away from the continual oppression of the Palestinians way before the 7th of October. They were willing to go in with Israel, notwithstanding that Gaza, by the way, has been going through this situation, economic deprivation and political suppression and bombardment by Israelis and jailing and killing of Gazans, both in the West Bank and in Gaza for a very long time. So both these countries, of course, I mean, are currently playing politics after being embarrassed by countries such as South Africa, who were brave enough to take Israel to the ICJ. They've done nothing on behalf of the Palestinians, to elevate the current social, economic challenges that the Palestinians find themselves.
And so speaking of lip service, we're looking at U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who said that a lot of work remained to secure a deal on the extended truce in Israel's war on Gaza. A captive prisoner exchange obviously also occurred after the Palestinian group Hamas responded to a truce proposal. This was just also coming to the fore after his visit. Let's look at the dynamics, the impact of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, Hamas is willing. Hamas is willing to move ahead with the deal, in other words, releasing of the Israeli hostages, and they are willing to release all hostages if Israel does have a permanent ceasefire. But Israel, of course, has said that's not going to happen. Benjamin Netanyahu said it's not going to happen. He will go ahead and continue going after Hamas, whatever that is, because it's extremely difficult. We don't even know at the moment how many Hamas fighters have been killed or captured. Israel has not been able to give those numbers. All we know is that there's over 27,000 Palestinian civilians, most of whom are women and children, that have been killed by Israel. And Israel, after the interview with Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday at ABC, he actually regarded all of those that have been killed as Hamas, and only 10,000, he says, were fighters. So children and women and children that were killed, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, are all Hamas. So he doesn't see any of them as civilians. So it's going to be very, very difficult at the moment. But I think the Americans are very frustrated. Antony Blinken moving from one country to the other in the region, trying to convince them to give Israel time, because I think there's an impatience, particularly within the Gulf countries. The bigger countries such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt are impatient, not because of anything else, but because television pictures don't lie, and these pictures continue to be beamed around the world, and the world is beginning to say, where are the Arab countries? Why are the Arab countries not doing enough? Most of whom have got power. For example, countries as Saudi Arabia, largest exporter of oil and gas in the world, you would have expected them to do something. Instead, we have small little ill-equipped armies such as the Houthis, who are doing much for the Palestinians. As a result, they are gaining more and more popularity and support within the Arab world. So Antony Blinken is facing a steep hill in terms of, one, convincing Benjamin Netanyahu, who's also, by the way, likely to go to jail after this or kicked out of power, to convince Benjamin Netanyahu to enter into a ceasefire arrangement with Hamas. But at the same time, I think he's also feeling frustrated and is feeling the pressure from the Arab countries, particularly countries such as Qatar, who are now showing some signs of frustration with the unwillingness of the Israeli Defense Force to to stop the ceasefire as they continue bombarding and killing the Palestinians in Gaza.